back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively into something that feels like a baseball season. At least it felt that way for a couple of days, and then the Marlins happen, and the Orioles get caught up in the undertow, and here come the Yankees. This guy has been trying to make out the front from the back out on Twitter. I follow him. You can as well. He is a longtime Major League Baseball observer. You can find him at Castrovince. Anthony Castrovince is back here for all things MLB. And, I guess town to town, city to city, clubhouse to clubhouse, and I guess player to player and family to family. There's a lot of ways to look at this as this thing gets going, and certainly the Marlins situation in Philadelphia over the weekend gives us all pause, Anthony.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's been a lot of excitement to see baseball back, and we're all hoping that this thing can not just get off the ground, but stay off the ground and get to the finish line. But the situation in Miami was obviously indicative of how precarious this whole thing is, with teams traveling around the country, and all it takes is one player to then potentially spread it around to a team, and if a team gets it, they could potentially spread it to other teams. So we're all kind of monitoring where the tests go in the next couple of days. It's very important to see if this thing spread to the Phillies at all. That's kind of the game changer if it did, in my opinion.
Well, and the game changer, as you pointed out, is the second team, and where's the plank, where's the ledge, where's the edge, and the thing that I've been saying all week is it feels to me like they're going to play, and this isn't just baseball, this is football, no matter what. I don't know where that Rudy Gobert moment is for all of it. It wasn't there with Freddie Freeman. It isn't there with Eduardo Rodriguez. It isn't there with 17 players in the I don't know where the ledge is for them to stop this experiment. I've been against this experiment from the beginning, and much like you, I make my living off of this stuff. This is the way I feed my family all of my life. I'm 52 years old. I worry for all of them. I worry for the tone that it sets, and then I worry for what happens the next time, because there will be a next time. This is not, this isn't a shark attack where there might not be another one. This is a pandemic. This is a pathogen. So It's happened everywhere to everybody, everywhere on the planet. Somehow, sports feels like, and clearly with what's going on with our government, we feel like we need to shoehorn this thing and make it work. Have you talked to anybody that has real reservations about that is playing, that hasn't opted out because they need to feed their family and it's a job and they're making $4 million this year?
Oh, absolutely. You don't find most players are gung-ho about trying to get this in, but of course there's concerns in general, and then there's really pointed concerns among a small percentage of the player population, I would say, because look, these guys are putting themselves at serious risk. We all know that. You can't just shrug it off and say, well, they're young and healthy and they'll probably be fine. I mean, by and large, that's probably true, but there's outliers, as we've seen with this virus, and there's an older population with the coaching staff. So there's no doubt. I mean, a real risk is being taken on here, and it's strange because you're watching baseball, you're excited about baseball, but what is going on in the bigger picture, and you always wonder and worry that too much is being done too soon. But, business being what it is and our culture being what it is, we try to push forward, we try to push through, and we hope for the best. And they put, every protocol in place that they could think of, but there's always going to be things that come up that you don't think of. And I think the Marlins situation is indicative of that. So I don't know if this will go down as an early and unfortunate situation that everybody learns from and benefits from in the long run, or if what's going on with the Marlins is just the beginning of the end. It's too early to say because of the incubation period with this virus. And as I said, that's why monitoring the tests over the course of this week will be so vital to the future of this season, because we need to see if they were able to contain it to one particular club that then uses their alternate roster, as it were, and pushes forward that way. Or if it did perhaps spread to another team, because that's where it becomes even more precarious.
Well, and it's hard to talk about the baseball part of this, right? Like, pitchers aren't ready to pitch. Some hitters aren't ready to hit. Guys are trying to stay away from each other. Pitchers are trying to avoid position players. But it really gets – and how bad the game is on television without fans and how flat it is and, and how bad my baseball team is in Baltimore, despite the fact that they're playing seemingly 700 ball here through the first weekend. There's all of that, but then there's just the people making the decisions to do this and where the protocols are and where the safety levers are. I mean, let's get into the mind frame of the Marlins on Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning when they know they've got dirty tests in their midst and decided to get one in. I think through all of this, that's sort of the mortal sin of the whole thing is that you said there were checks and balances. You're putting temperature screeners at every end. You're telling everybody how safe you are. And then this obvious third-day disaster happens and stories about them being tied to nightclubs in Atlanta. I've talked about this at length for a couple of weeks now, ever since I went down to North Carolina with my wife to try to get away from people, only to find a whole place where, nobody's wearing a mask, right? I mean, I'm in Baltimore. Right. We've been wearing a mask for 6 months. My wife's a 2-time leukemia survivor. She's diabetic. We're not effing around with this, bro. I've almost watched my wife die twice, so we're not doing that. And once I got back from North Carolina and I saw, wow, nobody's taking this seriously. And then I see these young football players out on Instagram, on their jet skis, out partying all summer, and now they're all going to come together. And I've said this, it's safe sex, man. It's, do you wear a condom? Do you wear it every time? Have you always in every circumstance? I mean, it's a question of honor as to where you've been and how you're behaving that affects my safety and everyone else's safety. And societally, we're not getting it. And the fact that baseball and football are playing leads to this, or how safe are they being versus the rest of us? And look, I've had a dozen bars that I frequent, that I eat wings in, drink beer in, that have been shut down in the last 3 weeks in my city, right? So, and now the Yankees are coming to town. And what hotel are they staying in? And how are they getting to the ball? I wonder all of those things as we all try to traverse the earth safely on all of our behalf, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, during the summer camp period, they had great testing numbers in MLB, and you would hear from players about, and it was probably true, quite frankly, that, look, I feel safer here than anywhere because they are being tested so frequently and they are adhering to these, strict protocols and what have you. And they weren't totally wrapped in a bubble like the NBA, but they were basically in a bubble. They were basically, every team was kind of in its own little bubble. But then that bubble pops, the second you do start traveling, and then there's the temptation, you're on the road, to do the things you would normally do on the road. Go out to eat, go out to a bar, what have you, socialize. And, if that's how this all started with the Marlins, I've certainly seen those rumblings as well. You see the breakdown very quickly. And then, again, you see how it could potentially impact other clubs who might be adhering better to the protocols. And that's where it becomes, not just unsafe, but unfair, quite frankly. So, there's a lesson here for all of us if we're paying attention, but I don't know how much our country is paying attention in general with this particular virus in this situation. It's too easy to get to develop a false sense of security and to let your guard down. We see that in our own lives, and it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to lock, as you have, Nestor. I mean, it's a difficult thing to lock down to that degree. And it's many months into this thing, and
I miss hugging my kid, right? I mean, we all do, right? We
just not nip it in the bud early. Not that it could be eradicated, but just develop a culture around it early that we did not do. We fought it scientifically, and now here we are.
Anthony Castrovince is not fighting the science of baseball and the sabermetrics. You can find him at Castrovince out of Twitter. Tens of thousands do follow him, and also author of A Fan's Guide to Baseball Analytics. While I have you, and let's nerd it up about baseball and analytics and what's fair and who's fair and the minor leagues. And I mean, this is a real code red, right, for the entire industry all the way around, for where it sits and the age and the race and who's playing it and who's not. In my town where the team stinks, and it's been really the fans have been abused for 25 years in Baltimore. And now Peter's nowhere to be found, and the boys and the team would have lost 100 games this year because they're trying to lose and they're trying to get top picks. So I'll buy into all of this, but the Nationals have won a world championship, which they haven't been able to fly their flag from 38 miles away. And I'm not sure what the long-term feeling about my team in my city, but a lot of kids play lacrosse here. This whole shutdown of minor league baseball, shutting down the minors, and trying to change the game a little bit for the better. I mean, there's the DH and the pitchers not coming in and 4.5-hour games. I'll hear all of that. But at the top level, Manfred and every owner and everyone who are the trustees of the sport, this has really challenged them over the last 6 months. It continues to challenge them today, right?
Yeah, and obviously, baseball is not alone when it comes to the challenges of a global pandemic. But you're right. I mean, what you see, and you've heard this said in a lot of areas, is that what this situation has done is sped up things to where they might have been a few years from now, and maybe the warts in the, MLB was trying to reduce the number of minor league teams as it was, but now this situation kind of accelerates that, really. And I feel for everybody involved in minor league baseball, the development end of this, the number of kids who had their seasons canceled, and it's tough, man. And where we go as an industry is important because, that's the lifeblood of Major League Baseball is what happens at the youth level and what happens at the minor league level.
Well, and I drove going to North Carolina through Bowie, Norfolk, Salisbury, these places where there would have been baseball. I drove right past the ballpark in Norfolk and, sort of wonder what Gary Kendall would look like out there and maybe Adley Rutschman getting there this summer. Putting back every kid who plays the game, right? I mean, senior seasons, college baseball, minor leagues. It's really like a complete off year. And I guess for a lot of kids who are trying to make it wherever they're trying to make it, doing sort of things on the side in their own way, that whenever the industry gets back up and runs the way it's going to run next year, the year after that, if you're a 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old person, right, that trying to make it in the industry right now and wondering what your options are in the industry, and if you're a 16, 17-year-old kid who maybe could play football or basketball or something else, that this has really been a shakeup, I think, for not just for baseball, but I think football maybe not as much. We're going to find that out. All of the sports, all of the college sports, but baseball, this really came in the middle of baseball season and punched them in a time when, March 15th, everything was normal. Then it wasn't all of a sudden.
Right. No, that's what I tried to say is there's natural. It's natural to compare sports in any situation, but we've been comparing the NBA and NHL to Major League Baseball when it came to putting a plan back to come back, and two entirely different scenarios because the NBA and NHL played the vast majority of their regular season. The owners made their money, the players made their money, and it's just a matter of, okay, how do we stage playoffs? And they're able to do it in their hubs, in their bubbles, and it's just you can figure that out. Whereas baseball, obviously, this came down, just within a couple weeks of what was supposed to be opening day. There's no revenue generated, and then you get down, as you said, to the amateur levels, to the minor league levels. You obliterate the entire minor league season. The development time that would be going on right now. You think about a team like the Orioles that's so development oriented right now, and this is a terrible year for them on a lot of fronts. But one of them is that, and a primary one is that there's no developmental games for these guys at the minor league level, and that's a lost year. So, and then you get down to the amateur level, it's a lost year for everybody. So, it's brutal that you don't want to complain just relative to baseball because this is brutal on every economic front in this country and in other countries. But yeah, baseball, I would say, even within the sporting realm, has probably been adversely affected more than most.
He's Anthony Castrovince. He's covering all things Major League Baseball as long as they're playing it, even if they're not playing it. A fan's guide to baseball analytics. I guess to nerd it up on the baseball analytics side and playing games in Buffalo amongst other places and how they now scientifically evaluate their talent, right? And all of that for a year has been sort of weird and kerned, and I don't even know if these half-ass games they're playing right now and pitchers pitching a couple of – I don't know what you glean from the analytics of this because so much of modern baseball has been baked into if this, then that, right?
Right. Yeah, my book is all about how does a fan comprehend the stuff that's cited in the media these days, the stuff that's cited on broadcasts. Obviously, this is the stuff that then is what front offices are using to build rosters. But from the perspective of the book, it's like, all right, I know what batting average is. I know what a good hitter is based on batting average. 300 is good. 200 is bad. But what is a good weighted runs created plus? What is a good OPS plus? What have you? ERA plus. And I think that those actually, in this situation, in this very strange situation we're in with a 60-game season, I think that those context-adjusted stats are actually more helpful than ever, because batting average it's going to fluctuate wildly in a short season. Nobody's going to hit 30 home runs. Nobody's going to drive in 100. Nobody's going to win 20 games. So if you do want to compare players to each other, all in the same boat, all in the same strange situation, you actually have to go to those advanced stats, those plus stats that relate things to the league context, to the era that we're in. And this era, this 2020 season is basically an era unto itself, because we've never had a season like this.
It's an exhibition season to some degree, right?
Fairly compare two hitters, look at their OPS plus instead of their home run total or their batting average.
Well, it feels like a barnstorming tour of some kind, right? Like in some way. Yeah, I mean, and it feels like I'm Venezuelan, man. It feels like a winter 50-game little marathon that they play down in Caracas, or the Arizona Fall League or something like that. Or as my partner Don Moeller on Monday, actually it was Tuesday when all the scheduling was coming down, I was on the phone with him. We were doing radio, and I said, so Don, here's what's going to happen. The Nationals are not going to play the Yankees. The Yankees are going to play the Orioles. The Phillies are going to stay home. The Marlins are dirty, so they're going to go home, but they're not going to go home. They're going to stay in Philly. And he said, it sounds like a Little League tournament.
I mean, there's a little whack-a-mole going on. And there could be other scenarios, of course, that pop up. If they are going to get this thing in, we knew going in, everybody's going to have to be flexible. I don't know if you necessarily knew this flexible this early, but we knew that if there was an outbreak in a particular city and it impacted a team's ability to play there, they got to be moved maybe to a minor league facility, or maybe they play their games their home games on the road. I mean, everybody just has to go with it. This is a weird year. This is a weird situation. It's a weird schedule to begin with, even if it had gotten in like normal. But now all of a sudden, as you said, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's going to continue to be the case. And you see how quickly, one situation, one clubhouse very quickly impacts 4 or 5 organizations, not just the team they played, but now, the next team on the schedule, the next team on the schedule. It's a domino effect. So that's why you got to nip it in the bud early. And really, it really boils down to just policing yourselves off the field. That's such a crucial element to this season getting completed is players policing themselves and taking care of themselves.
You washing your hands, wearing a mask, staying home? What are you doing? You going to games? What? Usually guys like you are bopping around and covering teams and moving around. Usually I'm moving around in the summer catching a ball game, and I haven't been to the new ballpark in Atlanta. I was going down to see the Stones this summer, right? I was going to figure it out. I mean, even though I spent 10 miserable days in Atlanta last year for a Super Bowl. But for most of us who do this professionally, there is a thought, and ever since the Orioles threw me out 15 years ago, I'm not all that quick to run off the baseball games, but I go to a lot of ball games and I go to a lot of sporting events and concerts and all of that. It's been weird. I'm still 2 blocks from Oriole Park. If they offered me a chance to come back, I'm not really interested in going and sitting in an empty stadium. I'm just not. I mean, I'm barely interested in watching it on television, given that I'm an Orioles fan and they have no chance. You know what I mean? We're waiting on football. We're waiting on the world to change, but baseball's really trying to come in a weird spot, and even people like you that cover it probably say, it works okay in my living room here on MLB or get the app, right?
It works better in my living room. You have no access whatsoever to players, personnel, what have you. Everything is on Zoom, so I mean, you're almost at a disadvantage being at the ballpark. You see things on TV you might not have seen, sitting four levels up in the press box. And granted, there's vantage points up there too. And you get that ambiance, I guess.
Do you want to go once to experience the weirdness of it? I mean,
but it doesn't move the needle for me personally. I've got a pregnant wife, and so no, we've been content to hole up here at home with our 2 young kids, and on the MLB TV, I can go anywhere. I can be anywhere between MLB TV and Zoom, so that's helpful.
Hey, man, for you and the way you make your living and the way I make my living and all of this, and we're not making the same living that, like, Manny Machado's making, although those uniforms are spiffy. We must say that, right? The Padres are back to being the kings of uniforms, right?
They're up there. I'd say them and the Brewers. I mean, they crushed their redesigns. The Brewers away uniforms, particularly the navy blue tie. I love those. And yeah, the beauty of brown is back, and they're playing well too. So it looks good on them.
What is old is new again, including the DH in the National League. Anthony Castrovince, he is enjoying baseball. You can enjoy him. So enter that daily that mayest grow in knowledge, wisdom, and love. I'm reading from your Twitter, so that's pretty good. So, and by the way, the Springsteen pun, well played, man. We need to get the boss back out on a stage, brother, right?
No kidding. That's another thing that was not thwarted by this, but certainly pushed back, as we were going to get a new Bruce Springsteen album and an E Street tour, sometime next year, early next year. Now that's in question. We need a vaccine to make that happen. So that's one of a million reasons why scientists are working so hard on this thing, so we can get the boss back. Because I think everyone's going to try to tour at the same time next year, which is going to be tough on people's wallets and time and schedules. But I think they should rough it out like someone like Bruce Springsteen, who's 70 years old. He should get first bite at the scheduling apple, as it were, because we're running out of time here for E Street Band tours.
Dude, I was back in March. I was holding tickets for the Pearl Jam tour, right? Like, I had 2 in Oakland. They was playing Baltimore. I had it all figured. I had 4 Stones. I had the lucky dip. I got the $40 tickets that might have been in the pit in San Diego, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Louisville. I had it all scoped out for 6 months. And when Pearl Jam canceled, I was kind of like pissed. I was like, man, I'm going to miss out on Pearl Jam. And that was just the beginning of the problems, right? Like, within 3 days, everything in the world was over with, and they were sort of on the front. And they canceled about 3-4 days before Rudy Gobert. They were out in Seattle where it had hit their kids into school and like that. And the domino effect of all of this, hey, man, baseball's on tonight. The Yankees are playing the Orioles for the time being. I will be watching and opining and, hoping against all hope that nobody gets sick. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get back to, you got to remain hopeful and optimistic in times like these. And, it's been what you just said about Pearl Jam. My brother had tickets to various shows as well. He's a big Pearl Jam fan, and that feels like forever ago, that life and that time. And I guess that blissful ignorance over how serious this thing would get and how quickly it would get so serious. But it is, I understand all of your concerns, and I share them. But it is, when you are able to sit back and watch a ball game and hopefully everybody is doing the right thing and adhering to those protocols. I mean, it is a nice thing to have live sports on our TV again, and hopefully they can get this season in.
It's also friggin' weird. Anthony Castrovince is here. He is Castrovince out on Twitter. You can follow him from his couch for all things Major League Baseball. Thanks for being a good friend to the show and checking in with us from time to time. Good luck with the family. But if I get Nils on at some point next couple of weeks, I'll throw you a vine on that. You can throw some questions for Nils. All right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that.
He's pissed off on Twitter, and I love it.
Yes.
Anthony Castrovince ain't here on business, only here for pun. And MLB, an MLB Network contributor and author of a fan's guide to baseball analytics. We're talking baseball this week, and Marlins and Orioles and Yankees and Nationals. Oh my. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat when I'm not dumping coffee all over my equipment in the Cole roofing mug in the Royal Farms Kona Blend. I don't know how the Kona Blend's going to do on the Multi-Mix 8 board, but we're about to find out.